What's going on, everyone? It has been Lone Vault Wanderer here with a piece of news about Borderlands 3 that I'm actually pretty late to the party with because it's several weeks old. But saying that, I haven't seen anyone really cover this piece of news. Maybe there were a couple of articles about it, maybe some other YouTubers covered it. I don't know, but because this came out during E3 week, it seems like it got lost in the shuffle of all the other game releases and all the other game announcements that we saw at E3. So I would be pretty remiss if I didn't cover this eventually on my channel and just talk about it, especially because I've had a habit of covering Borderlands 3 news pretty comprehensively on my channel. So I want to be doing that now and trying something a little different on my side. I want to try and not do any retakes as I record this video. So if you hear some stumbling, if you hear some stutters or whatever, I'm going to push through because editing that shit out is so annoying. It's becoming such a chore. So I'm going to stick to this and see how we go. So you're going to hear a lot of swallowing of saliva too. Isn't that lovely? We're going to be talking about Randy Pitchford's comments at E3 about Borderlands 3. Now, if you don't know, I'll link to the video in the description below, but Jeff Keighley was doing this event at E3 called YouTube Live at E3, and he was interviewing a bunch of publishers, a bunch of developers, and one of the people that he interviewed was Randy Pitchford, the president of Gearbox Software. And the first question that Jeff Keighley asked, which is why I love Jeff Keighley, was about Borderlands as a franchise and the next Borderlands game that Randy Pitchford and the team at Gearbox was working on. Now, obviously, it's no surprise. We know that Borderlands 3 is in development. You know, Randy Pitchford has announced it numerous times. They showed the tech demo. It is no secret that the next big game that Gearbox is working on is Borderlands 3. But he did talk a little bit more about the next Borderlands game that I wanted to cover off today. So he talked about, again, you know, there was the tech demo reveal at GDC. They've been pretty open about Borderlands. They're excited about what they're working on. And he said that there will be a big official announcement. This was interesting because a lot of people in my Borderlands videos have been saying, well, Lone, you know, Borderlands was already announced. It was already revealed. They've done so numerous times throughout many different PAXs and GDC conferences and panels and all that kind of stuff. So when Take-Two initially before E3 was like, we're not showing anything else aside from WWE and NBA, people, or anything new, that's what they said. People were like, well, Borderlands 3 is technically not new because they've already announced it, but they actually haven't. And Randy Pitchford has confirmed that there will be some sort of big official announcement coming sometime in the future. And if you want to know when that could be, I have a video again in the description below about my predictions for Borderlands 3's release date, which I predicted to be in December of 2018. And because of the next comments that I'm about to mention about from what Randy Pitchford said, I think that we'll be seeing an E3 reveal next year, but I'll continue. So after saying that there will be a big official announcement, he says that they want to have everything ready to talk about and ready to go before they make this big announcement. You know, it seems, if you have ever followed Fallout news closely, it seems like Randy Pitchford and the Gearbox team, and with 2K and Take-Two as the publishers, it seems that they want to make sure everything is ready to go and announce it, and then maybe have the game released pretty soon after the official announcement. It seems like they don't want to do like a year in build-up where, you know, they constantly tease out different trailers and gameplays and where, oh, we don't know whether this is indicative of final gameplay. They want to have everything ready to go, which is why I think if they had an official E3 announcement next year's E3 during June, and then they had the game released later that year, possibly early 2019, I think that's still possible, but I think that we could see, very likely, a late 2018 release, and my guess is December. So that was interesting. And, you know, he talks about how he wants to set expectations correctly with the next Borderlands game. They have incredible ambitions for this game, which is great. Obviously, they didn't show it at this year's E3, but, you know, Randy Pitchford was pretty open about that. And here's one of the most important things that I think he mentioned, and that's most of the developers at Gearbox Software are working on Borderlands 3. And I know that Gearbox Software, not just as a publisher, but as a developer, they seem to be working on a lot of different things. Whether it's Brothers in Arms, whether it's Duke Nukem, they are working on a ton of stuff. But it's great to see Randy Pitchford come out and say, most of our developers are working on Borderlands 3. I think that is good news for Borderlands fans that were worried that this game might be in some sort of development hell. because we had some developers leave, we had some voice actors leave. I believe the voice actor for Claptrap actually left the studio. But that doesn't necessarily preclude that voice actor from working on the next Borderlands game. You know, they can still contract out to him as a contractor, and regardless, voice acting is usually done pretty late in development anyways. So you don't necessarily have to have every single voice actor working in-house, like any other voice actor, right? They're all third party, they're all contracted out to. So I don't think this game is in development hell. Most of the team at Gearbox are working on this game, which is pretty good news. And yeah, I think everything is leading nicely to a big reveal at next year's E3. Could they do something before next year's E3 and then they save E3 for more comprehensive, you know, gameplay walkthroughs and demos and things like that? That could be a possibility too, but I'm still sticking towards a December 2018 release of Borderlands 3. But anyways, Wastelanders, I thought I'd cover this news for you. I thought it was pretty interesting. Also, if you watch that video in the description below, he talks about how there's going to be a Borderlands movie. Yes, there's going to be a Borderlands movie. But it is being done by Lionsgate and apparently by some of the developers and by the production studio that worked on the Marvel movies. So, you know, Iron Man and things like that. Watch that video. It's pretty interesting. I might make a separate video about that. But regardless, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And until next time, this has been the Lone Bot Wanderer. Please take care of yourself. And would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.